With the IPL looming and England's Red Bull reset beginning with the England-West Indies test, there's plenty for us to discuss on with our guest for the episode, Jon Batham. Jon is an ECB accredited freelancer with more than 15 years of experience writing as a commentator on Guerilla Cricket, where you can listen to expert commentary on all England matches and more. Without further ado, let's get started. I think it's best for us to start on the England-West Indies series, considering it's going on. Today's the fifth day, starting at 2 p.m. UK time. It's looking like it's going to be a draw, I think, because England scored something around 500, West Indies around 400. England got a lead of around 130, and there's only 1 day left to play. There's been questions on England's bowling attack, especially considering the batting has performed. Scoring 500 for England is a huge deal because we haven't scored that high in quite a long while. But do you think, Jon, that England are putting their strongest bowling attack out for the West Indies series, or do you think there's some people are missing who would perform better?
It's been a bit of a surprise, hasn't it? Really, I mean, I think in the wake of the Ashes series and how bad it was, and let's be honest, it was dreadful. I think we figured that there would be some kind of shake-up, but somewhat strangely, we've done very little with a batting lineup that completely misfired, and kicked out our two senior bowlers, which I find somewhat baffling. And what's happened is we've had two pitches which have been slow and dead, which in itself is a shame, because West Indies cricket's been renowned for, certainly in most of my era, for pacey, bouncy pitches on which batsmen could play shots. And we've produced two pitches which have been dead as a dodo. And so therefore we've scored some runs. How much value can you attribute to them? I'm not sure. And then faced ourselves with the prospect of trying to bowl out a West Indies side who have basically set up camp to bat from here to eternity, with a bowling attack that's inexperienced and struggling. I mean, you've got Chris Wokes, bless him, who never takes wickets abroad, and let's be honest, is being picked because he can bat at number 8 and score some runs. So yet again, we're picking a cricket team because we're worried about the fact that we might not make enough runs. And then lo and behold, we do make enough runs because the pitch is really slow. And then we've got a guy who can't take wickets. Now, yeah, we complicate that, by the way, by leaving out both Broad and Anderson, which is slightly weird. If I'm honest, I would have probably taken one and not the other. And whichever one you take, that's up to you, really. Because yes, you've got to phase them out at some stage. But to complicate that, we take Mark Wood with an injury. Lo and behold, he's now injured. We take Ollie Robinson, who I think is a really, really good bowler, by the way, over which there are questions about his fitness, and he hasn't bowled a ball in the series. So then you've got Mahmood, who are equally, I think, is a very good bowler, but obviously very inexperienced at this level. You've got Fisher, who most people had never heard of before the series started. And you've got Leach, who you didn't trust to bowl in the Ashes, but now apparently he can. And in your batting lineup, you've got Dan Lawrence, who's actually proved that he's quite useful, but in the Ashes, we didn't even pick him when Ben Stokes was standing on one leg.
Yeah,
there are a few weird things going on here, I think.
No, you've pretty much summed it up. It's crazy because the team that we're picking now it's basically anyone who's rejected in the Ashes, who's just been put back into the team and suddenly performing really well. You've got to take the scores against West Indies with a pinch of salt, because the pitch was flat. West Indies bowling attack isn't exactly world class. It's quite weak compared to the Australian bowling attack, especially. So it just sort of looks like a group of rejects have been like pushed back into the team and somehow jumbled to make a team that's somehow performing. But in terms of bowling, it's pretty toothless. Like we haven't been able to take wickets. Like we've taken wickets, 1 wicket, and then it's not been a follow-on. There's not been like a cluster of wickets. Zaid, who do you think is the issue in terms of bowling attack? Who do you think the person's most likely to get dropped after this test or after the West Indies series?
So I'm not really sure. Like I agree with you. Like the England attack has looked slightly toothless at times. You're not really doing their role, what they're meant to be doing. And it's always disappointing when you have a great first innings and then what was 500 or so, and then your bowlers can't really like back it up. And then West Indies scored like 400. So then I'm sure England were probably disappointed at this point. So I'm not really sure. I think Saki Mahmood, he's bowled pretty well, and he could possibly be like a long-term spinner, maybe not. Sorry, long-term fast bowler, maybe like instead of when Stuart Broad eventually retires. So I think Saki Mahmood is doing well. Ollie Robinson, as John, you said, I think he's a great bowler as well. He's been doing really well ever since he's come into the team. So, and then you've got that like selection weird stuff like Matthew Fisher. No one's really heard of him. And then as you pointed out, John, it's really confusing. And I'm not really sure like what's going on with the England attack. It's just like as you guys have said, like it's just like a bunch of rejects just come back, and then somehow the batting is doing well. And then I'm not really sure, like the bowling, they just could have kind of like coordinate together, the fast bowlers and then the spinners coordinate together, and then just work together to formulate a plan, and then try and execute that plan in the match. It's all in good just having your own skill, but like you need to implement that skill into your own team and like coordinate with your other bowlers. It's similarly with batting as well. You coordinate with your other players and decide on how you're going to approach the game, and then go from there, which I think will be a much better approach to take rather than just going, I have this skill, let me just do that. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the skill of the bowlers. I just think it's a bit of a coordination issue. And I just think if they do that, then I'm sure English bowling will improve much further.
Yeah, I think it's just a lack of balance and a lack of direction. Like we've just picked people all different abilities and different levels of experience. We haven't got someone who's extremely experienced to like guide them as such. And there's no unity. You know, we've got like we've got Jack Leach who's bowling way too many balls that can just easily be smashed. He sort of looks a bit lack of confidence, and he's bowling 70 overs. He's kept one end tight, but in the end, he's not doing what spinners should really be doing and attacking the stumps and taking regular wickets. And that's been a bit worrying. But John, if you could drop one person from the current England team, one bowler more specifically, who would you drop and who would you replace them with?
It's a difficult issue, isn't it? I mean, see, I think Said's right. Why did we take Fisher on the tour? We took Fisher on the tour to give him some experience touring with the England team. The problem has come that we've now had to pick him because half the other guys that we took with us are injured. He was supposed to come along, see how it all worked. He's a guy in the making. We're going to work on him. In the next 2 or 3 years, he's supposed to break into the test team. That's now gone wrong because he's had to play. You see, Woakes on a standard English wicket in the summer will be okay because he'll bowl all right. But every time you take him abroad, he doesn't get any wickets. So is that a solution? You see, my next question about this tour is, what was the objective? Was the objective to reset after the Ashes and explore with some people and not worry too much about the result? Or did we intend to win the series? If the idea was for a reset, then why are we not playing Matt Parkinson, who is worth having a look at? Well, possibly the answer to that is because the pitches are dead and there's no bounce in them. So there are all sorts of issues at play here, and we have to remember that we've left Broad and Anderson behind. Archer's not been fit. who, when he is fit, is the first bowler on the list going forward because he has to be. So somebody's going to have to make some decisions at some point because they can't all play. But sooner or later, pitch suitable or not, we need to take a look at Parkinson. Because Parkinson's a wicket taker.
Yeah.
You know, but that comes down to, what do you want your spinner to do? Do you want your spinner to block an end up so that you can rotate your seam bowlers and just bowl line and tight and everything else, or do you want him to get people out?
Yeah, no, I think we've seen with this test match, Jack Leach has been, holding line up people 70 overs in West Indies' first innings, and he had a meager economy, but in the end, it didn't exactly help England. West Indies shouldn't have scored 400 runs when England have scored 500. They should have scored 200, 300 max. So, and that's purely because, the spinner, Jack Leach, isn't threatening enough. And it's, for me, the issues with the spinners. We've got, when Jack Leach is in the team, for example, you either got Don Bess or Matt Parkinson on standby, just waiting. All three of our spinners have just been on the sideline for so long, and they've just wasted their time just following the England setup, not had any opportunity. And then one of them gets dropped, and then one goes back to the counties, and the other one comes and plays. But then Matt Parkinson has just stayed there. He hasn't been given an opportunity. And we've seen, like, leg spinners can be effective in Test cricket, and there's no doubt about it. It's just, are you willing to take that risk and try it? And with England's so-called reset, I think they should be willing to take that risk and try a spinner. I think we'll talk more on Saqib Mahmood and his possible future in the Test team. John, how did you feel about Saqib Mahmood's performance, and do you think he has a future in Test cricket?
Yeah, I do. I think he's bowled pretty well. I think is right. I think he's done the sort of things that we might expect of him. The thing that baffles me is, if you're going to play Saqib Mahmood, he having been on the fringes of the England team for quite some while, why isn't he bowling with a new ball? Why did he not take the new ball? Why wasn't he even first change? In actual fact, he wasn't even second change. He was fifth bowler in this Test match. I don't get that. I don't understand that. I've seen the boy bowl with a new ball in county cricket, and he's dangerous. He's probably our seam bowler most likely to get a wicket. And I would have thought, if you've got 500 on the board, then give the ball to the guy who's most likely to get you a wicket up the top. That should have been Saqib Mahmood. That was an error. Now, I don't know whose idea that was. If it's come from the coaches, that's an error. If it's come from Root, that's an error. But then Joe Root and captaincy is a whole separate subject. I don't actually think he's a particularly good one. And I think the Ashes series has shown, particularly as he remains part of the reset as captain, I think the reason that he's still the captain of England is that there's no obvious alternative. So you have somebody who's captain by default, which in itself is a problem.
Yeah, it's sort of like Australia, Tim Payne, these last couple of years. They had a huge scandal. They needed someone who could just take them and lead them out and sort of get their reputation back. But then Tim Payne himself wasn't scoring any runs. He's I think his highest in Test cricket is not. He's not even scored a century. I don't think so. But you're completely right. You've got to, if you want to do a reset, you've got to give everyone. You've got to give people like Saqib Mahmood an opportunity. But Zaid, what do you feel on Saqib Mahmood, and do you think that he should have given more of an opportunity, especially with the new ball?
I think I completely agree with John here. I think Saqib Mahmood, were really confused why he hasn't opened the bowling here. Like, he's a fifth bowler. That's a bit shocking, really. And I think, like, with Chris Woakes opened the bowling with Fisher, I think Chris Woakes, as John has pointed out a couple of times here, like, he can't he's not really getting wickets abroad. So I really think it's a real shame that we haven't seen Saqib Mahmood opening the bowling instead of Woakes. I really want to see that. Instead of Woakes just opening bowling, I think Saki Mahmood, he's really got that skill and talent. He's a young he's a young bowler. He's coming through the ranks, and I really want to see him open the bowling in future, especially in these sorts of conditions. You've got 500 on the board, so why don't you give the ball to your bowler who can pick up your wickets? And he's sort of, for me, he's sort of like a next Stuart Broad or something like that, and for when Stuart Broad eventually retires. So I really want to see him coming in the future, opening the bowling with someone else. And I think Chris Woakes, he's just not really the right man to be opening the bowling, especially in these conditions. Like, you can't really just keep him for the batting. Like, you need, if you're having someone batting at 8 to score some runs, then you've got to have him being able to bowl a bit as well. And because obviously he can bowl, but like, we want to see him more as a wicket taker. So for me, I think Saki Mahmood's got a great future, but I just want to see him more in that bowling tap, bowling at the top much more.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think general consensus with all three of us is that England's decision making has just been poor. They've sort of balanced, they've sort of been in the middle. You know, they want to do they want to reset, red ball reset, but also they want to win the series, sort of, and the decision making's just been really strange. But yeah, John, you mentioned like the county cricket when you're talking about Saqib Mahmood. What do you actually feel about the county system itself? You know, and there's always been a bit of talk about, you know, how county bowlers generally not as good as the bowlers you face in international cricket, and whether the pitches are ready, you know, and set up for to produce international talents. What is your view on the county system in general?
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about this, hasn't there? I mean, I was very interested to hear Andrew Strauss talking about it before this Test match, and because obviously there's a big amount of talk about, you know, we have too many counties and that kind of thing, and Andrew Strauss has tended to suggest before the Test match that he's not necessarily on that train of thought. I think what frustrates me particularly as somebody who watches a lot of county cricket is that a lot of the critics of county cricket don't actually watch any county cricket. This is the problem. You see, the biggest criticizer of county cricket, sad to say, is Kevin Peterson, who's always saying, oh, county cricket's rubbish, it needs to be thinned out, there needs to be franchises, razzmatazz, blah, blah, blah. You need to get the elite playing right up the top, so you need to get rid of all the verbiage and all the rest of it. Now, I'm pretty sure that Kevin Peterson doesn't watch much county cricket. If he does, he can write to me and tell me that he watches county cricket, but I've never seen him watching any. And the other thing to say, of course, is how did Kevin Peterson get to be an elite cricketer? Well, the answer to that is he came to England and he played in county cricket. So he played in county cricket, and now he's busy trying to tread all over county cricket and say it's rubbish. Well, why is he doing that? Because, let me tell you why he's doing that. Because he's a white ball commentator. He's a white ball commentator who makes his money in white ball commentary. And so therefore, for white ball cricket to be dominant suits him, because that's where he makes his money. Now, okay, fair enough. He's looking after his own interests. I get that. But his own interests are not necessarily in the interests of the game. Let's look at this a little bit more widely. What else have we seen this winter? We have seen a racism scandal at Yorkshire County Cricket Club, which has highlighted yet again that cricket is predominantly in England a white man's game dominated by white privilege. White privilege is a thing, it exists, right? As a white man who's watched cricket for 50 years, I can say that. If you reduce the number of counties and you create franchises, what will happen is cricket will become even more of a white man's game than it is already. The problem is we're not tapping into the non-white talent that exists in Britain because we have an elitist system where most of the cricket is played in private schools, which, surprise, surprise, are full of white people. Now, when I was a kid in a comprehensive school in Hillingdon that had quite a lot of non-white people in it, we had two massive sets of school playing fields with about 4 football pitches, a rugby pitch, a cricket pitch, an athletics track, a long jump pit, a shot put, hammer circle, and we did all sorts, right? Part of the problem here is a political one in that a lot of those fields have disappeared and been built on, and so therefore you get even less cricket taught in schools at that level. If you're going to address the racism issue, you're going to have to get cricket into state schools. You're going to have to get it into state schools. If you do that, there will eventually be a feed through into the county youth systems of more Black, Asian youngsters playing cricket. That will feed into your system. That will enrich your county system. That will enrich your national system. So in actual fact, you almost have to make the system bigger, not smaller. So I would go in completely the opposite direction to the one that Mr. Peterson is going in. But that takes a major reset to make that happen. The other thing you've got to bear in mind, of course, and I need to bear in mind that my groundsman friend, Mr. Domain, the head groundsman at Durham, might listen to this podcast and he'll kill me if I say county cricket pitches are rubbish. They're not rubbish, but we are tying groundsmen's hands behind their back if we're trying to play red ball county cricket at the bookends of the county season in April and September. So we have to address the schedule. All those things feed into what is wrong with the county system and why have we only been #1 test side in the world for 12 months in the last 42 years. All those things feed into it. It's not a matter of just saying, oh, we need franchises, county cricket's rubbish, I love white ball cricket. That's nonsense. But also, on the other end of the spectrum, it's wrong to also say, and I have many friends who make this point, that the invention of the 100 has caused the problems with Test cricket in England, because the 100's only been here for 12 months and the problems in English Test cricket and county cricket have been there a lot longer than that. So there's all sorts of issues up in the air.
Yeah, no, you're right. There's a lot of things to consider, and with the county schedule, especially, with the 100 as well occupying the summer, and then you've got obviously international cricket, but then there isn't really a specific, like they've sort of pushed county cricket to the edges and pushed it to like the irrelevant periods of time in a way, and it means that people aren't going to come and watch it as well. Like, there's not going to be, I guess in April, it might be watched, but especially in September, you've got younger kids aren't going to watch it and they won't be able to take that experience and, see do they want to become cricketers? Do they want to play in the county cricket system? And in terms of like cricket played in schools and things, I just think it's really focused. It's really specific on certain groups of people can, like, especially generally people who are richer have more access to things like cricket. If you look at football and the model that football has, people play football in every school, in any school. it's played because, you know, you need 2 goals, people play it, and we can get cricket to that system. You know, with cricket, you don't need very much either. You know, if you get a tennis ball, a bat, and plastic stumps, you can play it anywhere. But we have to get that level of accessibility, and then we can get people interested in it, and then it feeds through. But also there is a question from people. There are a lot of Asian and Black people who do play cricket at a kids level, so at a junior level. But then those feeding into county cricket and actually playing it either semi-professionally or professionally, it's very minimal. Like there's barely any representation in county cricket of Asian people and Black people and other minorities. Even though there's a lot of people who play as young kids, and that's something that also needs to be addressed, because if that feed through, if it's very narrow and there's not many people are going to go through, then even if you increase the amount of people who play cricket as kids, it's still going to be too narrow, that there's not going to be many people who actually decide to take it as a career. And I think that's also got down to do with the visibility of county cricket as well. You know, it has to be more visible. If you want to do a red ball reset and you want to make England's red ball cricket a lot better, you've got to make county cricket more visible. Like at the moment, you know, you can watch it, like I've watched county cricket on YouTube, for example. They do some streams like that, and you can go to stadiums, but it's generally like its popularity is not increasing. It needs to be put at the forefront, like how the 100 was put at the forefront, like how the white ball teams are put at the forefront of our screens in terms of cricket. You got to do that with red ball as well, and give red ball that equal amount of time. Otherwise, you're not going to get the results. And I think that's pretty safe to say that we're not going to make an improvement. But Zaid, is there anything else that you think in terms of any other issues with county cricket, or anything you want to point out on?
I guess, John, you probably highlighted all of the things. Some of them I didn't really ever think of. You know, like with schools, I never really thought of that. It's just already opened my mind even more now, and I just think, like as you said, Avinash, like we all watch a little bit of county cricket every now and again. Maybe go to a stadium or watch on YouTube or something like that. And but the popularity is not. And if we always think about, well, to make England cricket more popular, let's I don't know, let's stream women's games. Let's get the popularity more. Let's get more popular English cricket. Well, then let's go further back from that. They need to make county cricket more popular, because if you don't have popular county cricket, you're not going to get players out. You're not going to get a popular English cricket. Going in further back from that, you need schools. You need more cricket available back in schools. So it all starts from back, like all the way further back to schools and young people. So if we have more young people involved and exposed to playing cricket, then we can have better county players, and in the popularity of this county system can improve. Then you can go further to all the way feeding into England, where you can have players going into England, even better players, and popularity just improves. So I think the only issue with trying to get cricket more popular in schools, I think, is that it's more like a very long-term thing. Nothing's immediately going to happen, right? So it's just gonna, like, we're thinking like 10, 20 years down the line here. So that's the only issue, but it's definitely worth looking at. And there are so many issues, like as John, you mentioned, but I think the main one is school. So like it's definitely like worth looking into, to trying to get cricket more popular in state schools or private schools, whatever it is, and having more players exposed to it. So, and that will help more get English cricket much more popular, and we can eventually get for better players. So there's no immediate thing, I don't think. So I think just English cricket, ECB just need to look at plans for the future, and just look at 10, 20 years down the line, we can have a much better English cricket.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Yeah, the earlier we start, the better it is for English cricket. You know, we can't delay it and start in another 10 years, and it takes 10 years itself. Let's go on to a more cheery note. Let's go on to the IPL, which is actually starting in 6 days, funny enough. And I was actually so shocked. You know, the most recent IPL started in September. There's a bit, and then there was, because of COVID, there's been a bit of issues. But yeah, we've got 2 extra teams as well. The Lucknow Super Giants and I think it's Gujarat Titans, and they've actually had some of them have had incredible auctions, and there's been some big players signed up, especially as well as like new talents who have performed well on international scene who've been rewarded with an IPL contract. John, do you have a team that you would say is the favourite at the moment, or is it just too open to tell?
I think because, I mean, clearly COVID is still casting something of a shadow over the tournament, and from my understanding, most of the tournament's going to be played in Mumbai, and that being the case, it's hard past Mumbai because they will have, for me, they will therefore have more fan base for a start, and they will be in more familiar surround. So, and let's be honest, they're a very strong side anyway. They're traditionally and statistically, they're a very strong side with, you know, powerful players at their disposal. So, you know, hard to look past them in many ways. You know, you're talking. I'm just having a little look at their team. I mean, obviously, if you've got Rohit, and you've got Ishan, and you've got Bumrah, then you've got the skeleton of a very powerful looking lineup. That said, if I was looking at a team that's not done very well over the last few years that I think may make a big impact this time, I would go to the Punjab Kings, because I think their recruitment has been amazing, really. I mean, they've lost Raul, but they've got in Shikhar Dhawan, so that's very much to their favour. They've also recruited Kagisa Rabada. You know, what were Delhi Capitals thinking, letting Kagisa Rabada leave their franchise? I think that could well prove to be the worst decision of the year, frankly. For me, Kagisa Rabada is the first seam bowler on my list in any format. There you go. I've said it. I've nailed my colours. I think, let's face it, he was the purple cap winner 2 years ago. The IPL before last, he was the purple cap winner for Delhi Capitals. What were they thinking? That's nuts. I think he could well be the purple cap winner again. And if he is, Punjab are going to go close. Now, added to that, of course, they've also recruited Johnny Bairstow, which is pretty interesting. That gives them lots of options. Do they open with him? Do they have him as a finisher? What do they do with him? And they've also recruited Liam Livingstone. Well, there's some firepower for you. So for me, Punjab Kings are the team to keep an eye on in the IPL.
Yeah, no, I think talking about Kagisa Rabada, honestly, he's 100%. I don't understand why DC have just let him go. Like, you offer him as much as he wants, just keep him, because him and Anik Nokia can, like, a two-pace partnership will just knock over teams like really easy, and they've shown it, and they've done it over the last couple of seasons. But actually, I'd say there's probably another, probably the worst piece of business is actually Sunrisers letting Rashid Khan go. That was honestly just that's honestly ridiculous. I do not understand. Rashid Khan, his economy, the amount of wickets he takes, he's taken, like, he took 20 wickets in, I think, the last IPL, and he's also going, like, economy of under 7. Like, that's exactly what you need, and somehow you let him go. Like, teams have got a big enough budget to offer, like, people like Rashid Khan, 16 crore or 18 crore, even 20. It doesn't really make a difference. He could be the highest paid player, but he's worth it for every rupee that you pay him. He's completely worth it, and I just don't understand why they let him go. But for me, I think personally, Lucknow Super Giants would be my team to bet on, because considering they got KL Rahul, who's a proven scorer. You've got Quinton de Kock, you know, two keepers could open. You've got Evans with power. I just think they look the best, and they're not like short in bowling either. They got Avesh Khan, who took like 30 or 27 wickets last IPL. You have Krunal Pandya, you know, spinner. Ravi Bishnoi. Oh my God, we've seen him in for India. He's been bowling really well. They've got pretty much every base covered, and they also actually have Mark Wood as well, who's got pace. But I think he's actually missing out on the IPL, unfortunately. But you know, the contract's not 1 year. I think it's like 2. So even next year we could be looking at. So they look like they have all the bases covered. And for me, they would be my like team to bet on. But 100% I agree that Punjab Kings are looking a lot better than they did last season. But Zaid, who'd your sort of team to look out for be?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with John on this one. I think Punjab Kings is definitely a team to look out for. And I just think the auction's been a bit interesting, isn't it? Like we've seen, like normally you see like IPL, a lot of the teams they stay similar majority of the years, but then this year we've got some completely different teams coming in. Obviously we've got 2 new teams, Lucknow, and we've got 2 new teams coming in. So I think the auction's been weird, really. Like Rashid Khan, that's just a bit shocking, really. Why have you let him go? And same thing with Kagiso Rabada, like 2 amazing bowlers that both contenders for the purple cap. Why on earth have you managed to let them go for 2 respective teams? So I think Delhi Capitals for me have just kind of just dug themselves a hole, really. Like why would you give up probably your best bowler, like Kagiso Rabada? He can get you wickets in all formats. So I think he's one of the best bowlers in T20 cricket, and it's just a bit shocking, really. Why have you let him go? So I think Punjab Kings, they've really improved from the last previous years, and I think they are definitely a team to look out for. They've got new players coming in, and they've got plenty of firepower, as you said, John. So I think Punjab Kings is a contender to win this year, and I think definitely a team to look out for.
Yeah, so we've touched on a bit about the 2 new teams, but we haven't really talked about the impact of those teams. You know, we've got 2 new teams, means more matches. John, do you think this is like the last expansion of the IPL? Do you think it could get bigger? And what is going to be the actual impact on the players themselves, considering they have 2 new teams to face, and that means more matches?
Yeah, I mean, I guess this feeds into is 10 franchises rather than 8 a good idea? If I'm honest, guys, I think the jury's out on that. Particularly in a year where, because of COVID, it's going to be geographically restricted, because you're not going to get those teams operating in their own region. So that makes it harder for them to draw in a proper fan base who are going to go and watch their games. That in turn could make it harder to sustain the momentum of a tournament that's going to last that much longer. And also, I guess you have to ask, is, bearing in mind the conversation that we've just had, is a white ball, is an extension of the biggest white ball tournament in the world, going to have further detrimental effect on red ball cricket? Possibly. So, I mean, I've no doubt it's good news for the BCCI, because ultimately their tournament will be bigger and it will make them more money. And as probably the power brokers of world cricket at the moment, that's good news for them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think to be fair, you have seen a lot of players, like especially from England, just leave out, not go to the IPL, or just decide they're not going to do it for a certain year because they want to focus on, you know, international cricket and their county seasons. But still, it's not focusing on their county red ball seasons. It's always focusing on the, you know, the T20 blast and things like that. So I honestly think that they're not really no one's really going to miss the IPL because it's a huge payout for the players. They're earning, that's where they earn a lot of their income from. A lot of countries, especially in like countries that are like 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th ranking in the ICC rankings, they don't get paid very much. So that's really their main source of income. And I just think that it works in favor for some, but it doesn't work in favor for others. But to be fair, in India, they have like the Ranji Trophy, I think, and it's worked out pretty well for them. The Indian team is scoring loads of runs. The Indian team is very successful in Test cricket. But from a British perspective, I wouldn't say that the extension of an IPL is actually going to make it's not going to make a benefit for us. We're going to still there's still going to be there's going to be more players who want to go to the IPL. There's going to be, with more franchises, mean more opportunity for English players, which means there's going to be less quality players in the county circuit. But it also works out that with less it also gives opportunity for younger players and who play for counties to such as players who played in the under-19 World Cup, for example. If they have their respective counties, they could fill the void of an international player. So it works in favor for some, but it doesn't work in favor for others, I think. How about you, Zaid? What's your views on the extension of the IPL?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I think it's just not really necessary. I don't think. What's the point? You're maybe CTI or whoever's running it. They earn more money. They get more money. But like, how much more money do you need? The IPL is making so much money. So like, I don't really see the point of adding 2 new teams. I guess like I think I was happy with the 8 teams before, because I just think that was like I think there was a really high level of cricket. India were getting new players as well, like Prithvi Shaw, Shubman Gill, getting plenty of new players, scoring loads of runs, getting some new bowlers. So I'm not really happy with the fact that they've added 2 new teams. I don't really see the point of it. It's not necessary for me, because like it's just like, what are you going to do with 10 teams? It's not really going to change anything really. Like I just think like with 8 teams, I think that was, for me, much more enjoyable to watch, with less teams but a really high quality of cricket. So I just think 8 teams is just, for me, just better than just adding 2 new teams. For me, it's just like the BCCI, they want to change the IPL. They just randomly added 2 new teams. That's how I see it. If I missed something, I'm not sure. But I just think it's just not necessary with 2 new teams. I just think 8 teams was a much better system to go by.
I think it's obviously it's a money-based thing, as John said. There's also the fact that it's just poor timing with COVID and everything. I think it could have delayed it until COVID is just a bit more. It's not going to have as much of an impact. But to be fair, like it could have an impact for the next like 5 years for all we know. But yeah, I just don't think it just isn't the right time, and it's just not necessary. But we can just see. We have to see what happens. We can't tell until the IPL starts and see how players are feeling. Are they fatigued by playing more matches and being away from home for longer and bubbles, things like that? There's a lot to think about. But I think let's just talk about like probably everyone has a like top batter and top bowler. I'll start. I think in terms of top batter, I don't know. For me, I honestly want to see Jonny Bairstow score loads of runs. He deserves. He's a very good cricketer. I love him in all formats of the game, and he scores like he can score 300 runs a season. But I want to see him score one season where he can score like 600, 700 runs, and propel himself even on the IPL stage. Everyone knows how good he is for England, but no one's really seen him too good in the IPL. So I'd like to see him. And in terms of bowler, I don't really know. I think for me would be Wanindu Hasaranga. This basically is pretty much because like I'm Sri Lankan and I like watching a Sri Lankan team, but I think he's been impressive on the T20I stage, and he's like taken wickets and he's scored runs. If he can score 300 runs this season, take 15 wickets, I think he's probably worth it. He's doing an all-rounder role. But he's batted up at 5 for Sri Lanka before, so easily he could bat up high for his IPL franchise. So he'd be my bowler as such, top bowler. How about you, John? Who would you be your top batter and top bowler that you want to see perform this season?
Well, one of the things I was going to raise earlier is that obviously it's a new era for several teams because they've gone away from their captain of previous years. And obviously Kolkata Knight Riders come into that category with Morgan not around. That raises for me the issue of Shreyas Iyer, who I love watching bat. I just love watching the guy bat. I just think he's a quality striker of the ball. He manipulates the ball really well. He's not what I would term a slogger in any sense, really. Obviously, if he's playing the leading role at Kolkata Knight Riders and having to make runs, that's a big pressure. But I think it's one he's up for. I would expect to see him very prominent. Yeah, obviously bowler-wise, I can't go too far away from Kagisa, who I think will be seriously motivated to show Delhi Capitals that they made a very bad decision. And from experience, if he can control his aggression, it's never a particularly good idea to upset Kagisa Rabada, because he's dangerous enough when he's happy. If he's unhappy, then look out, really. The only other person I was actually going to flag up was, I'll be very interested to see how Tim David gets on in the IPL. Whether he'll get a huge number of opportunities at Mumbai with their team, I don't know, but he made a big impression in the 100 here last year, in all sorts of ways, batting wise, and also in the field. He's very athletic as well. So yeah, a sort of one on the fringes to keep an eye on, perhaps.
Yeah, no, I think Mumbai's top order as well was a bit shaky towards the end of the last IPL. Was just, that's one of the things that probably didn't allow them to challenge as much for the title. So I think that they can, Tim David will probably have a good role in the team. You know, he might not play every match, but 100%, if there's there'll easily be like some rotation, and easily he'll play at least, I think he should hope to play at least half the matches. And that's actually quite a lot of matches as well. It's a good platform for him to, you know, show what good he is on the international stage. Zaid, who'd be your main batter and bowler to look out for?
Yeah, so as we're on the topic of Tim David, I think, yeah, he's one to look out for. As you said, John, he's been doing really well in the 100. He really stated how, like, he is a player to look out for, which is what you want as a bowler, really. You want to, when you get the opportunity, you want to show that, look at me, I'm a player that I can get you wickets, or I can score you runs, or whatever it is. So I think Tim David is one to look out for. I think for me, though, definitely bowler that I'm thinking of is Rashid Khan all the way, really. He's just really world-class bowler, probably the best T20 bowler for me at the moment. So I just think Rashid Khan definitely one to really look out for. Really excited to see him bowl. And also I'm a leg spinner, so so I really like Rashid Khan. The way he bowls with his pace is completely different to Shane Warne, but as effective. So I think Rashid Khan is definitely, for me, top bowler to look for. And in terms of batting, I'm really excited to see Richard Gaikwad bat this season. I think last season he played really well, competing with Faf du Plessis in the end, really, for the orange cap there. So really exciting young talent. And that's, I think, I really like with India, is that they've got so many young talents with under-19 World Cup, or young players like Shubman Gill, Prithvi Shaw, Richard Gaikwad. So I think for me, main batter to look out for is going to be, for me, Richard Gaikwad, because I just think he is like looking class, really. He got the opportunity a couple seasons ago and performed there, and then he played the whole of last season. So really excited to see him hopefully opening the batting and scoring some more runs. So he's probably the main batter for me.
Yeah, no, in order for him to cement his sort of place in the India team, or especially in the future, if he can show he can score a similar amount of runs as he did last season, that's perfectly going to suit with the India selectors, and they'll easily put him in the team. It's sort of an end of an era for the Indian national team as well, with people like Rohit Sharma's not going to be around for a long time, for maybe 3 years, maybe probably, and then you've got Virat Kohli as well. Got Cheteshwar Pujara and like Test cricket, Ajinkya Rahane. You got this sort of like, it's sort of coming to sort of an end of an era. So India are looking for a lot of new players. So to know that they've got that talent is just especially good. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this episode. Thank you, John, for being on this episode. We've really enjoyed it. We've enjoyed your analysis, and thank you, Zay. See you in the next one.